Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Midshipman Maxwell Summers. We warmly welcome the family of Private Talbot Aloysius de Largy Dalton, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you. You may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Talbot Aloysius de Largy Dalton. Talbot Dalton was born in about 1890 in Warwick-Nabil town in Victoria. It was a wheat belt town. The second son of William and Ruth Dalton. The Dalton family moved to Queenstown in Tasmania when Talbot was quite young, perhaps after his father William died in 1905. The young Talbot Dalton attended Queenstown State School before going on to work as a clerk for the Mount Lyell Mining and Railway Company. Talbot's brother Howard, who was a fireman, enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in December 1914, quite soon after war was declared. Howard would go on to serve as a sergeant in the 52nd Battalion and was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal for his actions during fighting at Dernancourt in April 1918. Before returning to Australia, he was also mentioned in dispatches. Perhaps motivated by his brother's actions, Talbot Dalton enlisted in September 1916, just a few months after he had married Annie Edith Farthing on the 16th of May. By this point, he had also been serving with the militia for 4 years. After initial training, Dalton was allotted to a group of reinforcements for the 12th Battalion, and on the 10th of February 1917, he left Australia, bound for overseas service. Arriving first in England, Private Dalton underwent further training on Salisbury Plain before departing for France. He joined his battalion in late November 1917, after it had returned to the Somme for winter and begun recovering from the fighting around Ypres. In March and April the following year, the 12th Battalion helped to stop the German Spring Offensive, which was aimed at dividing the English and French armies and dividing towards a strategically important city of Amiens. On the 24th of April, Dalton was wounded in action, suffering a gunshot wound to the thigh. He was evacuated to hospital in Boulogne for treatment and recovery. He returned to his unit in time to join the next Allied offensive in 1918, launched near Amiens in early August. After Amiens, a series of advances followed as the Allies broke through the Hindenburg Line. On the 25th of August, Dalton was again wounded in action. He was evacuated to hospital in Rouen with a bullet wound to the right leg. He rejoined his unit in mid-September, and 2 days after returning, on the 18th of September, he was killed in action. While there were no records of his death, the long period of grief experienced by his family can be witnessed through the in memoriam notices placed each year on the anniversary of his death. One of these contained a few lines of verse that read, "Somewhere in France he rests today, his grave our eyes may never see, but in the soil that holds his clay lie thousands slain for liberty." Talbot Dalton was 28 years old. His name is listed here on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Talbot Aloysius de Largy Dalton, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If you're able, please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. And we wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.